A Washington Post reporter recently spoke to Huffington Post about Empire and what their test audience thought about the show. Now, Cecilia Kang is the reporter who was talking to the Huffington Post, and she found something really interesting about their ratings. Now, there is a gay kiss scene on the show, and it features the character Jamal sharing a same-sex kiss with his boyfriend, Michael. Okay? So there they are, a good-looking gentleman right there. And apparently, according to Cecilia Kang, the test audiences they showed this to, the ratings plummeted. They did not like the scene at all. Now remember, this is during the testing phase, right? Because they want to see if the audience is going to like the show. So once they realized that the ratings dropped, did they take the scene out and did they air it? What happened? They decided to keep it. They aired it anyway.
Good for them. Good for them. So it's a largely African-American cast in this. It's really interesting because we just did a story yesterday about how President Obama evolved his position on gay marriage. And that part of the reason that he pretended to be against gay marriage, and Axelrod now says it, he admits it, the president was pretending to be against gay marriage. In fact, behind the scenes, he was for gay marriage. The reason he pretended that was partly because of how people would react in African-American churches.
Yes.
And he didn't want to lose that vote, and he didn't want to lose really close states like North Carolina, Virginia, et cetera, where he needed every African-American to show up to vote, right? And so I wonder if it's more true in this series, since it has such a large African-American cast. But if you're testing, they're probably testing across all racial lines. And so, yes, there's a ton of improvement in the country on gay rights, but there are still people who do not react well.
And I think it also kind of speaks to the stigma around gay sex, two gay men having an interaction like that versus two lesbians having a similar interaction, right? Like the stigma isn't there as much for lesbians. So I feel like if there was a lesbian kiss on Empire, people are not going to turn away.
The ratings would go up rather than down.
Now, that's just my speculation, but I mean, consider all the different times we've seen lesbian sexual activity in television shows and movies, like Black Swan between Mila Kunis and Natalie Portman. Everyone was buzzing about that. There was no like negative reaction to it. Of course, some conservatives were like, we don't like that. But nonetheless, then there was Game of Thrones. I mean, there's a lot of lesbian activity going on Game of Thrones, and no one turns away from that either. So that stigma is still there, and I think that, you know, slowly but surely we'll move away from it. But it's interesting to see how much the ratings dipped as a result of this.
Howard Stern ain't nobody's fool. He didn't put all those lesbians on radio all those years because they didn't work in the ratings, right? Of course they do. So yes, there's no question that there's this disparity here. And look, on the flip side of that is you don't, it's important for gay people to be treated like every other citizen and have the same exact rights. At the same time, you can't get into people's heads and you can't force them to like watching two guys kiss.
I know.
And that's going to take more time for people to at least find it irrelevant, right? Nobody has to like it, right? Like if there's certain things that you're not attracted to, whatever they might be, hey, be equal, be attracted to that. That's not how it works, right? So, you know, that's just a fact of life at this point. But I think eventually it will get, you know, to a point where we'll just find it irrelevant as opposed to something that turns us off.